well,
That was I'm kidding.
I will actually
I'm too close.
fucking murder you. So, for the first time...
Gamble.
Give me the steak knife. So, I'm just gonna remove the weaponry from your general vicinity. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Okay, this is the first time we're doing technically weekly seasonal content.
We're gonna try.
We're gonna try. I will make the effort.
We might not always be in the same room, mind you.
Sometimes we'll be recording from 2 different computers, but that is irrelevant. It is immaterial to the glory of what we have just witnessed. Yes, we just watched episode 1 of Solo Leveling almost immediately after it came out, because it premiered at 9:30 this morning for us, and we are now finishing it is almost 11. So we right in there, like first hour. And can I open with saying that, goddamn, Sawayuki,
Sawano?
Sawano, sorry.
Sawano?
I don't. Yeah, that's what I meant. Goddamn, you've done it again. I love it. I love the OP. It is glorious.
For anyone that's confused, the OP is in the ED, is used as the ED for a lot of first episodes.
Yeah, and it's called Level, capital L-E, and then V-E, capital L, and it's by Tomorrow X Together. Yeah, and it is stunning. I love it. It is definitely getting downloaded to my phone just as soon as I can find it released on YouTube, because...
Surprised it's not released yet.
I can't find just the song. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right now it's all the anime.
Like it's trailers and stuff.
I would take a look again next week once the first episode drops and it's officially used as the OP.
Yeah, also, if you look up the Solo Leveling OP, something interesting that comes up is that like a year or 2 ago, there was a collaboration between a K-pop group and Solo Leveling where they did their own song, like ending and opening OST album all about Solo Leveling. So that comes up if you search Solo Leveling OP. And I do like their OST, but it's not the actual one. See, I'm thinking that might be it. You know?
Well, don't play it here, but that's still not going to be the full version.
No, it's not the full version.
They might preview it, but it's not the full version.
But it sounds... I mean... You know, obviously, I like a lot more openings than you do in general because I'm less picky. I don't care.
I like a lot of OPs. What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know. You're always so picky.
I don't know I feel like I've said less. It was all right on OPs and EDs than you have.
I don't know, man.
Maybe I just don't like the ones you like.
Well, then you're just wrong.
Obviously, you're wrong.
But
I like the OP and ED this time. It was good. I love Sawano as a composer, and you can always tell his touch.
I can't. I just like it. It's definitely getting downloaded. I'm so excited. Okay. So, we've been talking for like the last 3 or 4 months ever since preview trailers started coming out, because obviously I'm finished. I've read both the novel and the manhwa, and Nick next through to volume 7.
I'm through what I think's going to be this season.
He's through to volume 7 and end of the Jeju Island raid.
I have a strong feeling that's going to be the season right there.
So end of the Jeju Island raid, volume 7. And I had expressed that I had some concerns about the fact that in the preview trailers we were seeing characters who like we shouldn't have been introduced to in the early arcs, right? Like I saw T.H.E and I saw the Guildmaster Choi and Guildmaster Yun-ho, and I was like, Yun-ho maybe because he comes in a lot earlier in the story, but like certainly T.H.E doesn't come into like a much later portion of the story. You know what I mean? Like almost just before the Jeju Island arc. Like literally in the lead up to that is the first time she's introduced, but she was showing up in all like the preview trailers and stuff. And I get it now. I really do. And obviously spoilers from here on out for episode 1 because we are reviewing it and talking about it. So we're not just gonna, say vague statements and hope that you understand.
There's a lot of anime, like, seemingly original content, or at least remixed.
Yeah, so the episode opens with kind of like a flashback to the last Jeju Island raid, which
Is that
was
something that we ever got to see in that much detail before?
No. We knew that Big Ho and we knew that some of them participated in it, but all we knew was that it was not a success, right? Because there were 3 Jeju Island raids before this, and obviously we didn't see the first 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, come on. If you're gonna squeal under the table, come up. Okay. So it starts with a flashback to 3 years ago and the last Jeju Island raid. And you know what I thought was interesting? Was the flashback leads us to believe that the raid is going well.
Yeah.
It does, though. It ends on a kind of a positive, upbeat, yeah, attack.
It doesn't cut to the part where almost everybody dies.
Yeah, it doesn't. The fact that the raid did not succeed at all, and it is the 3rd in a row that has failed spectacularly. But that kind of makes, so that's how I know that, I get how they're introducing. I can see now that the Guildmaster Choi, when he's standing on top of the bridge casting fireballs, that's the preview image I was seeing of him, and I was like, he doesn't get introduced till later. Okay, then no, there he is in the very introductory shot, so it makes sense. Right? And then we're also, rather than, because the first couple episodes of Solo Leveling really at least in the manhwa, right, really focus on the character of Sung Jin-woo, and that's because each of those episodes is much shorter, right, than even a manga chapter, or God forbid an anime episode. Goddamn, they're so much shorter. And so obviously the first couple chapters really focus in on him, so that you learn to kind of like this character, this is your main character, and then the explanations about the world kind of start a little bit later, after he's gotten his level up or whatever. That's not what happens here. You start getting the world explanations before he even goes into the dungeon, and we see Jin-chul, the head of the monitoring division, talking with Chairman Go Gun-hee, and we don't meet Chairman Go Gun-hee until much later in the manhwa.
So I gotta say, I actually really like this change for me, because remember when we read this, I had a lot of problems with the pacing, where it felt like we were given the exception before really getting the rule established. The status quo wasn't there to be broken. Here, I feel like we're kind of rectifying that a little bit by introducing all of these world building elements ahead of time, and sort of giving ourselves a better idea of where everything is currently sitting at, what the strength normally would look like.
No, I really think that was a good way to go too, because I think if they had gone straight based off the manhwa, then the entire first episode would have just been the double dungeon incident, and it would have ended with him accepting the, do you accept, and then maybe kind of fade to black or waking up.
Isn't that how the first volume ended?
Possibly. You'd have to pull it out and look.
I can. Where's the volume?
Okay, so pull this stack out carefully.
Oh, is this the...
It's behind there.
Oh.
So, give me that stack. Because we're talking about the manhwa, not the web novel, which I also have up to volume 8. Let's see.
No, the first volume goes way past that.
Yeah, okay. That's what because I think...
you might have had me stop right there when we first read this. I think you had me stop.
Okay,
early.
So this, most of the first volume is just up to him accepting. So this is where he accepts in the first volume, and then there's just a little bit of the next arc.
That's right. You had me stop a little early so that we could keep the arc intact.
I had you stop there so that you could kind of be left off on that moment, and then pick up the next time with the next one. Which works for the manhwa, but not... I don't know if it would have worked as well for the anime, because in general... I mean, the most explanation you really get about the world in this early bit is nothing. You don't get a flashback to how the world works or anything. Not really. There's kind of more a little bit later in the volume. But generally in this first volume of the manhwa, you're not really getting a ton of explanations about the world and how the world works. which is fine. It worked because it's much shorter, but keep in mind.
I'll figure it
Yu-Gi-Oh
out.
card.
Jesus. Okay, I'm sliding that flat for now.
Okay, we'll fix it later. Take away the other weapon. And maybe the needles. But yeah, so it definitely covers a different scope than reading the manhwa would have introduced you to. But we discussed it while we were watching the episode. It's kind of like watching the One Piece live action. Like they did have to change and alter things for pacing and like episode length and sort of what they could do in the time that they had. And that's what this feels like. Like they're adapting it to best suit an animated format. And I do think that, at least as far as episode 1 goes, I really do agree with their changes. And the sort of the starting at the Jeju, which kind of gives you an example of like how this raid is going to work, introduces you to some really powerful main characters, or not main characters, but like secondary characters, right? And then with the interaction with Go Gun Hee and Woo Jin Chol, we actually get information about like the world and like the monster cores and what the government wants to do with like raiding dungeons and stuff like that, which is information we really don't get until later in the manhwa. So I kind of think it makes a more well-rounded episode 1 than you would have had going straight off the manhwa.
I also got a comment. The action in this series has been really good.
So far? I mean, we were worried about it.
Yeah, because they weren't showing off a lot of it in the trailers, which for a series like this you would really expect.
Yeah, the trailers really didn't show any fights. I would wonder, though, because you've mentioned before that often the trailers show stuff that happens in the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
Right? And I would wonder if they didn't show action because they didn't want to necessarily spoil the fact that they were starting with a Jeju Island kind of in depth, because we didn't really get a whole lot of action outside of the Jeju Island raid. That's kind of our main fighting, that we actually get to see. And I'm gonna have to shut my window so the door doesn't bang. And if they had shown us that action, it kind of would have spoiled something about where they were starting and the changes they were making.
Definitely. I think so. For me on the page, it's hard. Like this might catch you by surprise. In like printed format, I don't get into action almost at all. Mm-hmm. And that might be why solo leveling doesn't always land with me. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just harder for me to really feel invested. Animated, though, like, it's a lot easier for me to follow the pacing of what's going on in a fight. And holy shit, what's going on there is hyper violent.
Yeah, no, they are. I'm really happy that they are not holding back on the fact that this series is incredibly violent at times. Like we have seen people.
We saw somebody's
stabbed.
Ribcage.
We saw somebody disintegrated with details to the point where we saw their skeleton as their flesh melted away, and then saw their skeleton disintegrate. We saw a man get his entire sort of like side of the upper body removed.
And like there's that part where they just like rip the things out and it's like leaking the green fluid.
Yeah, and then punch it through his abdomen.
It's not like the most hyper-violent they've ever seen, but it's more than I was expecting.
I'm happy about it, though. Like, I think it was necessary, because part of the... And here's the thing. They really just got to the very beginning of the Double Dungeon. So I can imagine that episode 2 is probably going to cover the rest of the Double Dungeon, because not enough happens in the Double Dungeon that I think they would make 2 episodes out of it, and it would also severely slow the pacing of the rest of the, like, 11 or 12 episodes that we're going to have. So they've got to finish the Double Dungeon in episode 2, in my opinion.
So this is my big critique, and I did bring it up kind of jokingly. Mm-hmm. I kind of wish Solo Leveling had done the full, like, 1 hour premiere that every other, like, big series has been doing lately.
I wish we'd gotten through the Double Dungeon.
Because that would have paced just that little tiny bit better, I think.
But a lot of those premieres are just, like, more than one episode being shown at once.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But it benefits something like Freren or Oshino Ko did it as well recently, where it gets you the introduction to the story is kind of complete, and it gives you like a sort of self-contained one shot that people can watch to get an idea of what the series is going to be. And I think that would have been a little bit advantageous to Solo Leveling based off where it stopped. I
think it would have been nice. I will say I don't think it's required. I think this was an interesting enough stopping point. Believe me, in my soul, I want 2 episodes to have been available today, but I'm perfectly fine with the one we got, because I feel like we got a pretty well-rounded introduction, and then we ended off on an kind of like a hook moment for the next episode.
I see where you're coming from, because we've both read this. We both like the original manga at this, or the manga at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like if I didn't know, like if I went into the series perfectly blind, this did not give me a good idea of like what's going to happen later in the series. Not what's going to happen later in the series, like what the general series is going to be like. And that's kind of where I think it would have benefited more.
That's fair. Like I said, in my soul, I do wish we'd gotten a 2-episode premiere. Like 2 to 3 episodes. But so I think episode 2 has to finish the double dungeon. And like the double dungeon is inherently one of the most brutal parts of Solo Leveling. I mean, we don't get something on like this level of like people graphically dying on like in the series again until, and spoiler, I'd say probably Jeju Island.
That's probably not going to be till the end of this season.
Yeah, because even in the ice dungeon, the one where they're stuck in there, even there we know that a bunch of characters like die, but we only see one of those deaths really. So this is and this kind of first arc is meant to be like an eye-catchingly brutal. I mean, it is a complete massacre essentially. And so I'm happy that they kept the abject violence of it in, because I think if they had limited the violence at all, it would have really been a detriment, in my opinion, to the actual story. You know? Like, you needed the sheer violence of this particular arc.
I think that's about all I have to say on this for the moment.
I'm excited. I think it looks really, really good. So I'd love, if anyone else is watching it, comment. Let us know how you feel about this, because I just think that it's really fucking good so far. And I have really high hopes for the rest of the series. And I know I might let myself down on that, but I don't care. It's too good for me to be upset or trepidatious in any way. But yeah, we should be back next Saturday with another review of episode 2.
Should be. I actually might not be on camera at all, but that's its own separate deal.
I will find a way to get a review of episode 2 up the day it comes out.
I can at least be there in audio format.
That works. I'll just put a little of one of the Solo Leveling characters' faces in your place. I'll pick one that I think fits you.
Get the giant Pikachu plush and put it right here in this chair.
Actually, I could. Yeah, I really could. Anyways, let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you next time.